Welcome back. This week we'll be talking about critical thinking. Let's start today's lesson with a quick discussion on why knowing how to write well is a powerful skill in today's society, even though students always seem to try to come up with new arguments as to why they think they don't need this skill. Number 1. Writing isn't nearly as important as it used to be. I've got a spell checker and grammar proofing software built right into my computer, my phone, and my tablet. That's a really good point, Trigger. With the abundance of technological innovations available today, we've got lots of options to help us catch some of those more obvious writing errors. Unfortunately, though, there are still quite a lot of mistakes that these programs don't catch. It's really not a good idea to rely entirely on spell checkers to keep your writing error-free. Number 2. The career I'm shooting for doesn't require any writing. Well, lucky you, Catsby, but don't forget that you'll probably still need to submit a resume in order to get your shiny new job in the first place. And you'll need to be able to respond to emails, memos, and reports. Misspelling words or not expressing yourself clearly can instantly brand you as illiterate or unintelligent. Mistakes like these can prevent you from moving forward in your career or even landing a job in the first place. You may think that technology and career choices can save you the trouble of learning to write, but the truth is, writing is still an extremely valuable and necessary skill in today's world. Number 3. I'm rich and don't need a job, so I don't need to learn how to write well either. That must be nice, Birdsworth, but writing isn't only beneficial in the professional world. We use writing because we are, by nature, social beings who use language to communicate with each other. Writing enables us to share experiences and transfer knowledge. We keep diaries, make grocery lists, take notes in class or in meetings. We write to express ourselves, to remind ourselves of something, and to help us make sense of our own experiences. Finally, we use writing to help make the world a better place by solving problems, sharing opinions, and influencing others. So how do we solve problems with writing? The key is critical thinking, and believe you me, this is a skill that can really go a long way. Critical thinking is actually the first step in writing an argumentative essay, because before you can take a stance on a topic, you absolutely must sit down and do some thinking on it. For an example, we'll go with everybody's favorite debate. Should marijuana be legalized? Yes. Wait, what? Why? The worst idea is to automatically spit out a response without first thinking about what makes your answer the right answer. This isn't critical thinking. This is irrational, emotional, unsupported thinking. Instead, the best way to start is to become an automatic skeptic. That is, doubt everything. Doubt your own ideas. Get rid of assumptions. Question other people's ideas, including your friends, your parents, your spouse, your favorite news channel, your professors, and even me. And dig deep to find the most logical, reasonable, and ethical answer that you can possibly come up with. This idea of taking on a skeptical attitude can and should be applied to just about everything in life, even the things you thought you already knew. Now that you've become a skeptic, sit down and give yourself a few minutes to just think about the topic. Think real hard, but don't stress about whether your thoughts are right or wrong. Just go with whatever comes to you on the subject. Keep a pen and paper or word processor nearby, or even record yourself so that you can keep track of your thought process, kind of like a cognitive map of your thinking. Typically, one thought will lead to another and another. Or you may find yourself stumped with a question that you don't know the answer to. Write that down too. This process is known as heuristic thinking, where one thing leads to another. Though this type of thinking is great for getting started, its method relies mostly on practical application and is not guaranteed to give the most reliable results. Your audience isn't going to take you seriously if you only base your arguments on your first thoughts. Instead, it's time to do some research. You'll need to find some good, unbiased, and reliable sources that present as much fact-based evidence as possible for both sides of the argument. We'll talk more about finding good sources a little bit later on. Once you've done your research, a good pre-writing method will help you decide what stance to take on the argument. You can try clustering like the example in the previous slide, or you can try something like a T-chart listing reasons for and against the topic. In this step, you are analyzing the topic by finding its parts, separating them, and seeing how things fit together. Just when you think you're done, you're not. Now that you've listed reasons for and against the topic, it's time to start doubting some more. This process is called evaluating. Say that based on your preliminary research, you've decided you're going to argue against the legalization of marijuana. Now imagine how the other side, the pro-legalizers, would refute your arguments and write down possible responses. Finally, flip it around and do the same thing by imagining responses from the other side. This process will help you to eliminate reasons that seem wrong or irrelevant and focus on the ideas that can be developed more. Your evaluation should include the consideration of both logic and ethics. Logic is the use of sound reasoning. Again, an argument based on irrational or emotional reasoning is not going to be taken seriously. Ethics are moral principles. Even if all logic points to the fact that all baby goats should be slaughtered, people don't want to kill baby goats. This is why ethics cannot be ignored in critical thinking. And finally, keep in mind that critical thinking does not always happen all at once. Sometimes ideas will come to you immediately, while others may come later as we reevaluate our original ideas. I always suggest taking breaks and coming back to your work after letting your brain digest the information. This is another reason why putting off a paper till the last minute is a terrible idea. Critical thinking and writing is a time-consuming process. By the end of all this, you should be able to officially take a side on the topic. Nice job! Next time you find yourself in a debate with someone on whatever subject, remember to throw out assumptions and irrational or emotional responses and follow the steps to do some heavy-duty critical thinking instead. Number 1, become a skeptic by doubting everything and everyone. Number 2, do some hardcore thinking on your topic. Trace your patterns of thought using a mind map and jot down any questions or ideas as you come across them. Number 3, do the research. Find out what's really true about the subject by reading up on unbiased and reliable sources. Number 4, analyze and evaluate your evidence by making lists, presenting counterarguments, and applying logic and ethics. Number 5, come up with your conclusion. Take a stance on your topic and present your evidence. And finally, rinse and repeat. Even though you've used critical thinking to solve a problem, keep an open mind. You never know when additional evidence may present itself that goes against your conclusion. Remember that critical thinking is more of a cyclic process than a linear one. When you think you're done, keep returning back to the first step of adapting a skeptical mind. Question everything always. Now that you know a little bit more about critical thinking, it's time to put it to the test. The cool thing about this particular skill is that it can be applied to more areas of your life than just writing an essay for class. Critical thinking allows you to analyze other people's arguments as well, whether they be presented as a written work, a heated debate, or a motivating speech. You can choose to agree or disagree with an argument based on whether or not it is logical, ethical, and fact-based. Until every possible factor of an argument is explored, there will always be a vast array of opinions on almost any given subject. This is how problems are solved. By people like you, using logic and reason in your everyday lives. By thinking critically and intelligently instead of reacting only to your gut or taking someone else's word for it. And by taking the time to engage ourselves through the careful evaluation of really important topics that can, in the long run, change our whole world for the better. Or you can just be like this guy.